Hello there and welcome to another edition of the program, The Portfolio. To say the world is overdependent on water is an understatement. Even though roughly 70% of the earth is covered by water, only a tiny fraction of 1% is fresh and readily accessible to sustain the over 7 billion people living on earth. A 2015 report by the United Nations suggests that the world may only have 60% of water that it requires by 2030. This does not include the absence of major global policy changes. And that is the focus today on the program for The Portfolio, Investing in Water, a Commodity Without Replacement. I am Vivian Itekbefo. We shall be right back. You're welcome back to the program, The Portfolio, reaching you from the stable of NTA News 24 here in the nation's capital city of Abuja. And to set the tone for this edition is Comfort Amodu with the news segment. Hello, Comfort. Bring us up to speed on what's the latest.
Thank you, Vivian. We begin with supporters' assessment of the economic strides of the present administration. Economic enthusiasts lauded the efforts of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration in handling the nation's economy in the last 3 years, despite the challenges. Considering the economic indices and growth experienced in the manufacturing and agricultural sectors, analysts noted that the administration focused on the key areas that drove the country out of the worst recession in the last 10 years. The belief is that the federal government's social intervention program over the last 3.5 years have positively affected the nation's economy.
We expect that with this trend of growth, we're going to continue having our PMI growing, and that's actually an indicator that the manufacturing sector is doing well.
People must have a good understanding of the fact that getting out of recession by itself is a major achievement. You're taking something from negative, you've brought it to zero, then from zero you now start building up to positive. And coming out of recession, one of the reform programs is empowerment in order to rejig and reactivate economic activity.
Meanwhile, the federal government, through the Debt Management Office, Monday offered for subscription the Federal Government of Nigerian Savings Bond. The 2-year Federal Government Savings Bond due January 16, 2021 is at an interest rate of 12.125% per annum, while that of 3 years due January 16, 2022 is at an interest rate of 13.125% per annum. And Nigerians' electronic payment services recorded transactions worth 56.85 trillion naira from January to September 2018. Reports from the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System indicate an increase of 16.4 trillion naira when compared to the 40.45 trillion naira recorded in the corresponding period of 2017. ATM's transactions grew from 4.61 trillion naira in 2017 to 4.76 trillion naira at the end of the third quarter of 2018. And that report concludes the news. I'm Comfort Amodu. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Comfort, for that update. Now to the business of the day. Investment advisors, asset and wealth managers are increasingly nudging their clients to consider adding water to their basket of investment. Some even call for privatization of water. Others argue that lower water levels mean higher prices. This indeed sends different messages to the end user. To the investor, it means an opportunity to make money. To others, it is a signal for help. But the United Nations World Water Development Report in 2016 revealed that approximately 1.5 billion people globally are employed in jobs that depend heavily on water. The report speaks volumes of the economic importance of water, ranging from energy production, agriculture, manufacturing, and many others. The bottom line is this: water is precious and is increasingly a scarce commodity. I have in the studio Mr. Michael Ali. He is the president of Association of Water Well Drilling Rig Owners and Practitioners. You're welcome to the portfolio.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start with the United Nations figures. What is our situation at home?
Thank you very much. With our situation at home is really disturbing. And with that, we definitely have a succor by the declaration of state of emergency by President Muhammadu Buhari a couple of months ago in the water sector, meaning that it was, or it is, a deplorable situation where we have so many disturbing statistics. For example, the pipe situation in Nigeria, which used to be about 32%, has gone down to 7%. The aspect of the open defecation is disturbing. The water sector that has been adding to the GDP has reduced to 0.2% of the GDP. So when you look at all these statistics, it shows to us that the water sector in Nigeria is in deplorable situation, and what has been the reason why this. Comparing it to what the United Nations has really given to us as their own figure, you find out that yes, we are definitely losing it when it comes to water access to Nigerians. And I can't just imagine what my viewers are feeling if probably they have this real source of drinking water from the government, or the government is doing so much to get this done.
Now, we do have a water policy, a national water policy. Could you break that down for us in line with the state of emergency declared by Mr. President?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. The water policy and the major information in the water policy only stipulates that the responsibility of water to people goes to the local government, meaning that your local government is mostly responsible for you to have access to safe drinking water. Now, be it as it is, you find out that even at the government at the national level and state level, they are in partnership now and in collaboration with themselves on how to bring water to Nigerians, considering the way the financing has been, the way the sharing of allocation or wealth resources has been in Nigeria, meaning that yes, you come from the national to get your state funded. On that premise, the state government is now taking the real responsibility of, to having to provide water for the entire citizen. But the question is this: if you look at it from the perspective of the fact that the state government must be the one to provide water, potable water, to their citizens, it means that the process and the procedures to getting that done and the need for the Nigerians or their citizens to appreciate what they have done, you can find a mismatch in there. Because water activities, water infrastructure require a huge sum of money for you to find it on your table, for you to find it at home, for you to find it piped the way we used to have it, for you to have it at the rural area, for you to have it in the semi-urban area, and even in the cities. That means it requires a huge sum of finance. Now the question will be, where does this finance come from? And when you look at so many things that has to do with the growth of the GDP, like I just mentioned, that the water sector contributes about 0.2% to the GDP, very, very low. So compared to agricultural sector that contribute close to 23 or 25%, depending on year of their contribution. So GDP, and other service sector that contribute close to 55%. So when you look at all of this, then the question will be, why will I need to invest in a business whose contribution is just meager 0.2% to the GDP? And the question comes to the private sector involvement in the water sector.
Exactly. I was coming to that because we see that water is increasingly becoming commercialized.
Yes.
Commercialized in the sense that you go to homes where usually, growing up, you could just access water without necessarily paying.
Yes.
But now you have people construct houses. They have their pipes maybe outside the gates.
Yes.
And you come, you fetch water, and you pay.
Okay.
So,
but at the moment, we find it that it's very difficult for government to really provide that service to Nigerians. And then I can say to you that I won't be biased in my statement. I will say we are the cause of all this. We Nigerians are the cause of all this.
How?
I will just get my fact known now. For example, if you have a governor ruling a state and his campaign promise has been, I'll give you water, I'll give you road, I'll definitely build houses for you, I'll rebuild the hospital, and I'll give you social amenities, I'll give you so many things that will make life wonderful and bearable for you. Well, when it comes to the reign of the executive, the question is, what is the budget for me to pipe, to have a pipeline connections to every home? And that is going to cost me a fortune. And invariably, I'm going to bury all these things. Like if it's going to cost me about 30 billion to do that in 4 years, then 30 billion, then if I have to do roads, road is seen. I can see road. People can appreciate me for what I'm doing by seeing the road. But if I have to bury 32 billion, and over a period of 4 or 5 years, invariably, then people will definitely castigate me and say, no, you guys, you are not doing well. We want to see the infrastructure stuff that if I have to build 32 billion worth of housing, people will see it. This is what we can commission. But when it comes to dam, when it comes to reticulation, when it comes to water treatment activities, it's a lot of money. When it comes to aspect of piping to different homes, it's a lot of money. I keep seeing so many facts that it's a tall order for the third country like Nigeria can definitely achieve the sustainable development goal, because except our attitude changes toward all of this. All you have mentioned that, okay, people now have bowls in their houses. You hardly find anybody that can definitely boast of pipe-borne water. Yes, it may be meager, probably like 10–15% of Nigerians, but right now it's even 7% from the study by the World Bank. That it has gone down from 25%, which used to be in 1990, to now 7% in 2015. That the source that we're looking at now will definitely have an adverse effect in the future, because the only source is...
you are talking about boreholes now.
Yes, the underground source. Because it's, the underground source in all other developed countries are definitely preserved. They are respected. We are not respecting our underground water. Recently, we had a tremor in Abuja, in different places. Pape and the rest, and we were all terrified. Everybody is just, looking and finding solution. Okay, yes, but wow, how don't we know that all this drilling could have affected the aspect that has to do with buoyancy that the water produces for the heart to be stable? Invariably, there are a lot of research into that now, which we are definitely part of it. But the important thing that we must understand is this, that we continue to do all of this, our attitude has to change. If our government wants to do something for us, we must understand that, yes, whether it takes the government 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, we should understand from that point of view that, yes, they will provide a succor. Okay, the succor is that for now we want to build pipes in all homes, but for you that are having boreholes, okay, yes, good, you are having it now. But in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, don't worry, you may not see some development project going on as you used to have, but because we want to face this particular sector. Mind you that the water sector affects the health sector. It's hidden. Mind you that the water sector affects the agri sector. It's hidden. Mind you, the water affects the industry. And mind you, the water affects the service industry, which are the 3 key major sources of our GDP in this country. So invariably, water could be hidden, but it has a very critical role in sustaining the GDP of this country, especially health. Now,
you did talk about financing for water infrastructure. What options would you advocate for financing?
Thank you. There are several options of financing the water sector, especially the private sector financing. We have the IFC, we have the World Bank, we have the ADB, we have the AFDB. We have all these development partners that finance the private sector into aspect of the water sector. The water sector is not something that we could just do alone, or we should allow the government alone to be part of it. And that's why I will tell you that what the government is doing at the moment it's in good direction. For example, the aspect of the PPP, public-private partnership in the water sector, is doing very fine. There's another aspect that is just coming on board, and that's the PWASH. That's the Partnership for Expanded Water Sanitation and Hygiene, meaning that they are looking at different stakeholders to come in and contribute in one small pond. And whatever there is being contributed, both the private sector, the development partners, the government, and they are coming together under one umbrella and want to use the money to fund a particular area of needs.
For you are for the school of thought that water should be privatized.
Well, that has been my campaign years back. I'm a businessman and I'm a private person. Water should be privatized with a stipulation. I told you, I just mentioned it. I said, with stipulations. Water should be given free to the people in the rural areas. Government should have their privatization stop at the cities. Whatever they are making as gains in the cities should be invested back to the rural communities, free, and it should not be sold. I don't see reason why we must have such water in the rural area when we have governance. So invariably, I don't see reason why you must have drilling rigs in cities. It's wrong. It's absurd. We have always been, I'm the president of the rig owners, but I still see it as an absurd situation that I've traveled around all these developed worlds. I have never seen a drilling rig move around in cities. I've never gotten to any place in the developed cities and all I can see is borehole sources from borehole water. They have their source from one central place and they have managers for it. That's what I mean by privatization. But in rural area for farming, for other activities, I think borehole can do well in those areas. I think the aspect of privatization might not definitely work in that, but there must be license for them to use the water for commercial purpose. So invariably, if you have any investor coming to Nigeria and he wants to make use of our dam, he should be able to pay for the license for him to operate on our dams, because we spend money in building that dams.
So now let's talk about the SDGs.
Yes.
What role do you think the private sector can do to help Nigeria attain the SDGs in water-related issues?
Yes, the question, let me redirect the question, that are we really able to meet the SDG? I know, I'm just trying to see, because if I have to advise on that, the question will be, are we really in line?
Well, the state of emergency,
yes,
could be, we are, of course, having the targets of the SDGs.
Yes, the state of emergency is in good order, is in good line. Very good, fantastic. And I'm looking at us to do more by putting fund. You can't just declare state of emergency. Let me come clear now. We can't just declare state of emergency without having something to cushion that effect. The state of emergency is when you have things in a deplorable situation and is not within the reach or within the control of those that are in charge. Then we want to take charge, meaning that you need to pump more money into the sector. So when you talk about pumping more money into the sector, is it pumping more money from the federal government, state government, or private sector coming into that? So when you look at the XTG and for us meeting it, state of emergency will definitely help us. The National Wash Action Plan, as it has been launched by the Mr. President, that we're looking at this towards 2030, which is in line with the SDG, will help us. But the important thing is this, the private sector helping the SDG. The question is, how many of the private sector are even recognized in the first instance in Nigeria? Because we keep asking ourselves, who are the private sector? I'm a private person. Yes.
You have members in your association?
Yes, I have members. I have non-capable members in my association that the government policy is not favoring. So invariably, if you want to come about the privatization, assisting the SDG, and you want much of my members to come in and be part of it, the question is, how much has this policy has helped the activities? How many of these drilling companies are doing well? How many of these, water companies are doing well in Nigeria? I'm not talking about Abuja alone. I'm saying Nigeria.
I have been talking with Mr. Michael Ale. He is the President, Association of Water Well Drilling Rig Owners and Practitioners. We thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, listener.
And so we move on now to the capital markets segment, and Joy Uzo is standing by with that review.
Thanks, Vivian, and welcome to the Capital Market Review segment. Now, for the week ended January 4, 2019, the market opened for 4 trading days as the federal government of Nigeria declared Tuesday, 1st January 2019 a public holiday to mark the New Year celebrations. Meanwhile, a total turnover of 1.647 billion shares worth 8.413 billion naira in 14,773 deals were traded last week by investors on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 1.28%, while market capitalization appreciated by 0.78% to close the week at 30,638.90 and 11.426 trillion naira respectively. All other indices finished lower, with the exception of the NSE Oil and Gas Index that rose by 2.91%. The financial services industry, measured by volume, led the activity chart with 1.154 billion shares valued at 5.742 billion naira traded in 9,174 deals, thus contributing 70.08% and 68.25% to the total equity turnover volume and value respectively. The healthcare industry followed with 271.277 million shares worth 82.647 million naira in 219 deals. The third place was services industry with a turnover of 91.734 million shares worth 208.562 million naira in 232 deals. Trading in the top 3 equities, namely Diamond Bank PLC, Union Diagnostic and Clinical Services PLC, and NEM Insurance PLC, measured by volume, accounted for 816.016 million shares worth 1.305 billion naira in 1,615 deals, contributing 49.54% and 15.51% to the total equity turnover volume and value respectively. Also traded during the week under review were a total of 395 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs valued at 816,344.70 executed in 13 deals. A total of 7,209 units of federal government bonds valued at 6.958 million naira were traded last week in 8 deals. 22 equities appreciated in price during the week, 45 equities depreciated in price, while 97 equities remained unchanged. And in the United States, markets crashed on Thursday following Apple's CEO Tim Cook's announcement that the tech mega cap had slashed its revenue direction for the first quarter. Cook also stated that the ongoing trade war between the United States and China would hurt many big companies. Further, a dull U.S. manufacturing data, the weakest since 2008, also added to investors' fears. Consequently, the 3 major benchmarks ended in negative territory. The Dow Jones Industrial Average decreased almost 2.8% to close at 22,686.22. The S&P 500 also decreased 2.5% to close at 2,447.89. And it is on that note that we wrap this week's edition of the Capital Market Review segment. Thanks for your time. I'm Joy Uzo.
That's it on today's program. Do join the social media platform showing on your screen to keep the discussion ongoing. I am Vivian Itekbefo. Many thanks for your time.